this thing off. It's the obviously this is the first edition of the Kickin the Tires video podcast, vlogcast, whatever we're going to call this thing, the Kickin Show, as Justin has so eloquently come up with. We've got Zach Catanza ready. We got Seth Eggert, Sarah Handy, Justin Schuler. Guys, what's the big news in NASCAR right now? Other than I did get to talk to Steve Phelps earlier this week.
I would have to say the playoffs starting this weekend and throwback weekend all wrapped up into one.
Byron getting his first win. Obviously, he was in a playoff bubble, so what best way to burst that bubble with getting your first career win? He obviously had a win earlier with one of the exhibition races at Daytona, but getting his first points win, pretty big.
Sarah, what's your thoughts?
I think Byron getting his first win was pretty big. I really wasn't expecting it to happen. When I looked over the stats, him and Jimmie were almost identical on the season as far as average finish, and they have the same amount of top tens. I was really surprised by it. I didn't think he was going to happen. I really thought Kyle Busch was going to win before Byron won.
Yeah, just coming off of Daytona, there was so much stress and a lot of nerves for pretty much everybody who was in that race. All the fans who were there to watch it, and everyone sitting at home, and then me in the press box. It was an incredible weekend. So there's a lot to take from that. But, I think when you go into the playoffs, even back when it was Richmond as the final race, when you start the playoffs, it's like a brand new slate for a lot of guys. And some guys can get on streaks and surprise us all. And then we can get guys who you kind of expect them to be quick. So at this point, we have no idea, and that's pretty exciting for everybody.
Well, obviously, you were there at Daytona. I was supposed to be there. This lady named Laura came knocking on our back door here in Texas and Louisiana. So I couldn't be there. It was just wasn't. I needed to take care of some things here, make sure the house was safe. But if I have to look at one of the biggest stories of the week, like I said, we did get to talk to Steve Phelps earlier this week, and I'll go into some of that in a little bit. But Jimmie Johnson not making the playoffs in this final year, to me, it was like kind of just a body blow. When you look at 2020, it has sucked from day one. And, really ever since Jimmie Johnson announced that he was going to call it quits at the end of the year, the year has gone downhill. You can list off a list of names of different things that have happened that haven't been good. And, I was hoping that we'd see one good thing, one positive. And for William Byron, great. William's a great kid. He's good to us. He likes kicking the tires. He follows us. But man, he knocked Jimmie Johnson out. Jimmie Johnson's a 7-time champion. So the line of succession is obviously clear at Hendrick Motorsports.
Not only that, but as Sarah said, where his average finish was the same as Byron's, you have to realize that's with technically two less races, because he got disqualified at Charlotte in the Coke 600. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, he missed the Brickyard because of COVID-19. He tested positive. So with two less races, he had almost virtually the same stats as Byron. It's always going to be a what if. What if he didn't test positive, or what if he didn't get DQ'd? Say an average of 25 points per race, he would have been in, and Byron probably would have knocked out Matt DiBenedetto if that was the case.
He came – I don't know what Darlington race it was. I forget. Maybe somebody can – wasn't it Darlington that he was going to win the first stage? One. And he could have had a win right there. That he was solid. He was doing great, and then that happened. So,
yeah, he just kind of spun out by himself. That was crazy. That brings us back to this weekend with being at Darlington. I was thinking about this on the way home, and it's kind of like full circle with what NASCAR has been able to do, and they did it right. I got to give them credit. They've done it right. I may complain about some of the stuff they do. Like no pit stops in the Truck Series or the Xfinity Series last weekend. But I digress. They did it right with COVID, and they have done it right ever since. Obviously, me going up to New Hampshire, Sarah, you were there for that. You saw, I know you were nervous because you weren't sure what was going to happen, what was going on. I was the big time fan up there. But NASCAR had its they had their poop in a group, so to speak, and had everything, lined up for fans to be able to enjoy the races. And I have to applaud them for that, because other sports, as we learned from Steve Phelps earlier this week, are calling him and calling NASCAR representatives and saying, hey, what are y'all doing here? How did you do this? How did you make it possible so that you could have fans in the stands? And I think that's a great thing for NASCAR to be able to put a feather in its cap.
I think total NASCAR's had maybe 4, at least driver-wise, positive tests. Brendan Gaughan, Spencer Davis, Jimmie Johnson, Austin Dillon. I may be forgetting one. I'm not sure. I think in the ARCA West series. But outside of them and a handful of crew members that don't travel, they have had relatively few and far between as far as positive tests are concerned. And then if you look at, say, baseball, about a week or two ago, they had to cancel, game after game because of positive tests?
Yeah, one team got near another. Like the Marlins, it was almost their whole roster. So then I think it affected the Phillies, and they had to postpone a bunch of games. So I think when you look at it, I mean, even from a media standpoint, when I, covered New Hampshire, I mean, they did everything right. I mean, like dogs sniffing the car. I'm like, I felt like it was, I was at the border or something. They definitely, they make sure what outlet you're with, and it's like, you show your hard card and everything, but it's still like temperature check and questions, and they were just like on top of it. And I think that's why, we've been allowed to have some media and fans, and a lot of these other sports aren't. Like, I know the NFL and all that, I don't know how they're going to do any of this. Some teams are going to allow, some fans, but I think when you look at all the sports, NASCAR is definitely, they planned for it, and their plan has gone, according to how they wanted it to. And I think there's a lot more positives than anything, even though there's been some, like you said, Seth, some of the drivers, tested positive, but overall, I think it's going really smoothly.
I can say this, that I'm aware of, none of our drivers have been busted for sneaking strippers inside the bubble, so can't say that for some other sports, just, pointing that out. Our guys tend to behave.
Yeah.
We're happy Tony Stewart's not in this sport anymore. Maybe it
no. Oh, God.
He brought that up in his Hall of Fame induction speech.
No.
He said it, not me.
Oh, Lord. Tony, watching, I'm not responsible for that content.
She did on this speech with the Hall of Fame induction. I was going to say that.
I remember.
Zach's not asking for an interview with Tony anytime soon, so.
I'm good.
I'll just take it from Zach.
What if I could call him? I wonder what he would say.
There you go.
That's the same way with all these drivers. I talk to a lot of drivers, and they tell me, they're like, yeah, everybody wants like my time, and I got to give them some respect. I mean, props to them for doing what they have been able to do, especially under the COVID scenario and all the Zoom calls. As we've learned, Zoom's Clint Boyer's favorite thing to do in NASCAR. And so, happy that we have true drivers and, athletes that care about our fans.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise it would be like the NBA.
Yeah, that's one thing that we really learned throughout all this was, Zoom calls, they get pretty run of the mill, I mean, just, you're not, from a media standpoint, you can't interview drivers anymore. And I've been able to cover most of the tracks since COVID. I was there with Jerry last time at Darlington from the outside, and just one of the biggest things, if there's no fans there, that's the first thing you notice. But when the race ends, it just ends. Like nothing happens. There's no fun stuff going on in the infield. You can't go down and interview drivers and go search for a story on your own. So you're kind of stuck with Zoom calls. And it's just something that we just all have had to do. And I definitely agree with Boyer. I think Boyer wouldn't like your backdrop either, Jerry, because I knew that was something he brought up. It's like all these backdrops, I hate it all. But just what the sport has done, it could have gone, I think Sarah mentioned it could have gone really bad from the start because it was so early, only mid-May, and there was a lot of unknowns. We just had no idea when we were driving to the track, we had no clue what it was going to be like. And to see that after, a few months, we go into Daytona and we're like, all right, we were going to be here anyway. We're all caught up on the season. And the playoffs start next week, and here we go. We made it work. So we found a way to compete within the circumstances rather than wait for it all to end and then try to pick up the pieces. So I think NASCAR did a great job with that, and I'm just glad I still get to travel and see this sport with my own two eyes.
Yeah, you basically have become the lead guy, because I have stepped back from the road, and because it's just easier for you to be out there since you're on the East Coast, since you're in Charlotte. You and Seth and Sarah, obviously you did New Hampshire, and Justin's going to do Vegas and Phoenix maybe, and we're still working on that one. But I haven't done near as many races this year. And Seth, you've done one. You did Daytona. That's it.
Yeah, I did Daytona, and unfortunately, because of COVID, I had planned on doing somewhere around 10 to 12 races, and just because of how high risk the rest of my family is, I haven't been able to do any others. Right now, Martinsville is my next one. It's going to be probably my last one for this year. Honestly, I'm disappointed, but there's nothing I can really do about it. Just for me, family has always come first, especially, like I said, with how high risk they are. Both my parents are in that range, and my sister's compromised. So I just can't afford to go to some of the races, at least until probably Martinsville, because hopefully things are better by then.
Justin, go ahead, Sarah.
It's definitely kind of been an adjustment, because this year was, like Seth said, there was quite a few races. Seth and I had already had plans to carpool and, split hotel costs together. Atlanta, I was actually on the plane trying to make reservations, like texting Zach. He was probably like, stop texting me. We were trying to, figure out to make that work. And I was supposed to cover at least as many as Seth, if not a few more. And, I'm grateful for New Hampshire. Obviously, it's my home track. But I haven't seen, this is the closest I've come to meeting Justin is this Zoom meeting, but everyone else I haven't seen, since, Daytona. I saw Jerry obviously in New Hampshire, but,
okay, let me tell you something. She's like afraid that she's going to get in trouble for talking to me at New Hampshire. Like I'm like, I'm the boss. It's okay. You can come downstairs. They're not going to say anything. I promise you. Well, I don't know. Like she didn't know what to do. I was like, trust me, you're already in. They've already given you, you've already, checked your temperature. I had my temperature checked.
Yeah, I come out of the elevator and he's got like all this Kickin the Tires swag, just like chilling out on like the rail. And the employees like looking at him like, what's going on? Like, it was like,
Scott Cooper from SMI comes down, high fives and, or high elbows, and a couple other people there. And, it's like we didn't make that a big announcement that I was going up there until I was there. So Sarah was a little nervous, and but she handled herself well, and very proud. Oh, one more thing. Sarah went and did the DMV thing today, so she's actually finally going to get her license, apparently. So,
here we go. This goes right on the podcast for all of America.
So if everyone wants to know why their insurance just went up, just kidding. I'm kidding.
I can't. I need it so I can move to North Carolina. I was already supposed to be living there, and COVID put a damper on that. So, but yeah, just what I was going to hit on was Zach kind of hit on this a little bit was like the whole infield experience. I was going to say it's so different. Like I'm used to, like I remember at Daytona, Zach's doing his thing. I've got interviews. Seth's doing his thing. We all ended up back in the same place, but you're used to kind of doing your own thing. Like Jerry knows we'll take care of stuff, and we have our own plans sometimes, but it's just so different. I'm used to going on pit road, and it's just it's been an adjustment this year without the infield access, but that's for everybody. It's not one person that's in the same boat. But I think it's definitely made me appreciate the times that I've had the infield access, because now it's not there.
And I think to add on to that too, you know, what was it, a couple of years ago when everyone was qualifying at Fontana, then they didn't make the green flag in time when it was in group qualifying with the clock, right? And, you know, Boyer was the one that stepped up and went, yeah, we just kind of made fools of ourselves. And they all kind of appreciated, wow, okay, you know, single car qualifying really is a big deal. This year, we kind of go in and everyone's doing burnouts when they win or whatever. And Harvick comes out and says, yeah, that's really awkward now. There's no fans to kind of celebrate with. So I'm just going to wait until there's fans in the stands now. So to kind of see that from the driver's perspective too, because we've been seeing all this happen from like the media perspective of how, you know, we're limited on track access. We kind of see no fans in the stands. And then especially over the past couple months, some of the tracks, some of the states and counties allowing fans to come to the tracks, obviously at a limited capacity, not the full capacity that tracks can normally have. But to see the perspective from the drivers when you kind of see kind of their attitude and their perspective of like, you know, this kind of sucks not doing it with fans. So it's definitely been a wild year for sure. So
I will point this out. I'm actually kind of glad in a way that it's happened because, and I'm going to take a shot at some drivers and not name them overall, but they know who they are. Some drivers can be pretentious. Okay. And they can be kind of jerks after they get out of the car or before they get in the car or any other time they're taking a breath of air. But at the end of the day, now they realize that without the fans in the stands and without the media there to tell their story, which I've heard from drivers like, man, we actually kind of miss you guys. And I'm like, wait, what? Can you say that? Can you put that in writing? Like, because I want to use that going forward. You know, I need that when, you know, like I piss you off with a story or something. But like seriously, like drivers are, you know, telling me, hey, we miss the fans, we miss the media, we miss talking with you guys because, you know, they'll see us in the garage. I can't tell you the number of times that we'll walk through the garage and a driver or a crew guy or whatever will come and say, hey, let me tell you something. Now, we still, all of us still get stuff from our sources, but it has been an eye-opening experience for the past several months. And, you know, I'm really wanting to get this season over with.
I think a lot of people are.
What's your life like out in California, Justin?
Oh gosh. I feel like California is the worst because obviously all the hair salons except for one apparently up in San Francisco is closed. Whoops. But yeah, it's crazy. I mean, Sonoma's probably been my favorite track to go to because we cover all the West Coast races with Vegas, Phoenix, and Sonoma. So Sonoma's just absolutely gorgeous of a track to go to. It can get hot some years, especially in the summertime. But that was probably my biggest letdown. Was that's the one track I love going to just because it's so nice and Rachel loves taking photos up there. So that was a bummer that got canceled out.
She also likes the red wine.
She's not a wine girl. I thought
I'll drink it.
There you go. We'll have to do that hopefully next year if things get back to normal in time.
Matt Corson, who's not on this call, he's a wine guy. He drinks wine, and I know Sir Jordan, who's also not on the call. She although she's a beer person, a craft beer, which I'm allergic to, but
Bourbon
and bourbon. But I'm a wine guy, and but we'll have to all try to go out. We got to try and all get everyone to an event together, and
we're gonna get that much access.
Well,
we were gonna do that at Phoenix, but then obviously that all canceled out. I know when we joined you guys at the beginning of this year, because of a separate situation, obviously, but because we joined you guys, like we were all looking forward to go to Phoenix because that was a West Coast race. That was one that me and Rachel could go to. We were able to afford to go to, and we were planning for either essentially all of us or a good majority of us to all be at Phoenix, and then this virus is dumb.
Well, I'll probably regret saying this, but I'll say this right now. I guess I'll be the designated driver whenever we do all get together because I don't drink.
There you go.
Well, I understand that. I understand that. We'll give you some kosher wine.
Even that I don't drink.
Is that
I've
a
had
long
to
way
drink
of saying
that.
water?
I've had. No, there is actually kosher wine.
There is
actually
a kosher
Oh,
wine.
there is.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
it's
They're
made by
truly-
Manischewitz, but I just don't like it. I've had to drink that for years. Every time there's a Seder or something, and I hate it, and it turned me off from alcohol.
At this point, we might have our own water at the time that we all get to a race. So Kickin the Tires will be on a water. You know, Jerry's going to have his own water company.
I feel like
knock
half
it.
of the reason we're going to be drinking wine or drinking beer, whatever it is because like when this pandemic is like quote unquote officially over, we're just going to like want to drink 2020 out of our system.
I don't know if Zach drinks. Zach, do you?
I don't drink that much, just occasionally. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
I'll
the
have
same
like
way.
one. I'll have like one beer or so, but I kind of let everyone else get drunk. And I'm probably with Seth. I'll probably be in the passenger seat, maybe alongside Seth.
Well, hey Jerry, I want to know what everyone's final four predictions are as we go into these playoffs.
Don't start with me.
How about I'll start. My final four, at least the way I'm looking at it right now, I have penciled in Hamlin and Harvick. I think everybody's going to have at least the two of them. And then my other two right now, I've penciled in Chase Elliott and Joey Logano.
Yeah, for me, you really can't go wrong with Harvick and Denny. I mean, statistically, technologically, I mean, they're just ahead of most guys, and it's just their year. So I definitely have them too. Behind them, I don't know. It's kind of been a fight for number three, I feel like, for most of this year. We've seen various guys kind of get on a roll and start to, win a race or two, but probably nobody more than Truex, I would say. I mean, he had that run of top three finishes. I believe it was the most in NASCAR history without a win. So that kind of shows where he is. Consistent, but I just don't know how many wins he's going to tally up this year. Not as much as past years, but Truex in there, then probably Chase Elliott. He started the year off really strong after the break and kind of had a tough month of June and July, I felt like it was, and didn't do a whole lot. But now I feel like he's kind of back on a run and numerous top tens. He won a little bit back at Daytona on the road course. And I think his experience is finally going to line up with how these playoffs treat a driver and those beneficial characteristics that you need to win a title. So I think I'm going to go with Denny, Hamlin, Harvick, Truex, and Chase Elliott.
Sarah?
So I have to go with Hamlin and Harvick too. I mean, I think statistic-wise, if one of them doesn't win, I'm going to be shocked because I think it's either or of their championship to lose at this point. Kind of went back and forth on my third. I was going to go with Chase, but I had to go with Truex. If I looked correctly earlier, he has 8 top 5s in a row, I believe it is. Like Zach said, he had those tons of top 3s in a row. And my fourth is going to be, nobody's mentioned him yet, but I'm going to go with Ryan Blaney. He's had he's had some really good runs this season, then he's had some not so good weeks, but I don't know if I'm remembering correctly. I want to say in one of the videos I watched from when he talked to the media, he said like he would pick them as like a dark horse type. And I just have to go with him for the fourth. I just think he's going to surprise a lot of people.
Yeah, Harvick, Hamlin are pretty easy to pick because right now with the playoff structure as they are, Harvick has 2,057 points, Hamlin 2,047, and then it's Keselowski with 2,029, and everyone down below that is kind of separated by single-digit numbers. So those two definitely have been they've not just set the bar, they've owned the bar for 2020. And my other two, I would say it's going to probably be Joey Logano going in. And then I would have to agree with Sarah. That was my other pick was Ryan Blaney, because if you look at the beginning of this year and really throughout this whole year, Blaney had it not just been for untimely cautions and him being, the leader or one of the leaders and kind of being in that situation of if you pit, everyone's going to stay out, or if you stay out, everyone's going to pit and everyone's just going to do the opposite of you. Blaney would probably have 3 or 4 wins this year already. So I don't see him slowing down. I don't see that team slowing down one bit. And especially with how strong Keselowski has been and Logano and even DiBenedetto with kind of their affiliate team, DiBenedetto getting some pretty solid results this year so far. I think Blaney's going to get the one that gets the benefit of that in the long run and be that 4th seed in the Final Four.
So we do agree on 1 or 2 of those. I agree with Hamlin, and I agree with Joey Logano. I think Harvick is going to have some bad luck at Talladega. And then I think he and Kurt Busch will probably get in a wreck at Martinsville and take both of their chances out. And it's going to leave Logano and Hamlin, Kyle Busch, and, you know,
It's 4 drivers, Jay.
Huh?
You're naming like 6 drivers. It's 4.
No. I'm only naming 4. I gave you the
He's
scenario. I gave you the scenario.
Okay, you're doing it race by race. Okay.
Yeah, well, basically leading into the Final Four, I think it's going to come down to I think Kurt and Kevin will be racing for it and for the final spot, because Kevin will get in some trouble at Talladega, and they'll end up, something will happen and they'll end up wrecking. My 4 is Logano, Hamlin, Kyle Busch, and I'm having some trouble on the final one. I want it to be a dark horse. I want it to be a DiBenedetto or somebody like that. I think it would just be really cool to see, Matt make it to the finals, and it's possible it could happen. But if I had to go with it, I would say it would probably be Truex at the end of the day as my 4th person.
Well, talking about a dark horse, if you were to pick a dark horse, who's that one that's going to sneak into the Final Four?
Matt D is my, that's my dark horse.
Sarah, what about your dark horse?
I have to go with DiBenedetto. I was looking at his stats earlier. He actually, I have it here. He had 3 top 5s and 7 top 10s last season. And then now this year he's got the 2 top 5s, and he already matched his top 10s from last year. So I don't see any reason that he doesn't surpass that at this point. I'm actually really surprised he hasn't won yet. I think he has a chance to surprise everybody too. He's proved that he deserves that ride. I mean, I think he did really well last year with what he had as well, but I think he's going to be like Blaney though in the playoffs and surprise a lot of people.
Yeah, I think Jerry mentioned one of mine, and that was Kurt Busch. He's somebody who I've always had a feeling for him in these playoffs, not just this year, but in past years. He has been flashy this year, but he's been fairly consistent. He's got the same number of top 10s as Joey Logano, and actually 3 more than Blaney, which kind of surprised me. But unfortunately, like his little brother Kyle, he's also trying to fight to keep a winning streak alive. He hasn't gone winless since 2013, so it's 7 years ago now. So he's never been a big winner, as I said. I think you have to go back to 2005, the last time he won more than twice in a season. So that part doesn't really concern me. But he's got some ground to make up. I'll say that. He's the 15th seed coming in. But as Justin said, it's like those top 2, and it's like a big gap down to everybody else. And I think 7th place to 16th are within like 15 points. So it's all going to take a lot of experience and precision from the team and the driver, and Kurt's among the most competitive down there. So I'll probably have to give it to him.
My dark horse probably, I don't know how much you guys would agree with this, but I kind of had a feeling coming into this year with how strong this rookie class was that we were going to see a rookie win, and Cole Custer did that. Now, obviously, that was off of a really gutsy move, but he went out and wheeled that car and earned that win, right? So my dark horse, I think Custer is going to sneak his way into the round of 8, win one of those 3 races, and lock himself into the playoffs. I think that could be a very, very, very strong possibility. because that rookie class has already proven that they can all run up front. I mean, look at Tyler Reddick and how well he's been running strong. I don't think we realized, we knew he was a solid driver. I don't think we realized how well he was going to be able to run. So I think Custer's going to sneak in a win in that round of 8. If he can get there, I think he can pull off a very similar move and sneak his way into that Final Four.
Seth, what was yours?
Well, mine was Clint Boyer.
Okay.
And the reason why is where he, to a certain point this season, it's not been that much of a factor, but Stewart-Haas is the only team with all 4 cars in the playoffs. Yes, Penske has all 3 plus the Wood brothers, but they're the only team with all 4 in the playoffs. Harvick obviously has been blowing everybody away, but the other 3 are just a tick off of Harvick for the most part. So if they can nail something, I wouldn't be surprised to see Boyer, or to Justin's comment, Cole Custer, or even an Almirola sneak their way into the Final Four.
Yeah, most drivers today, when they were asked, they said Eric Almirola, which I kind of agree with. I don't have him picked, but I noticed that a lot of drivers also picked him.
Okay, so let's do something the opposite. So obviously we just talked about the dark horse, the underdog that's going to make it to the Final Four, make it far in the playoffs that wouldn't be expected. But let's talk about the opposite. So Jerry, you kind of mentioned it with Harvick, how you think he's going to come across some bad luck and not make it into the Final Four. What is one of those strong drivers that you feel has a shot, a very solid shot, or is expected to make it to the Final Four, make it very far in the playoffs, but is either not going to make it to the Final Four or is going to be eliminated right out of the gate when we cut it down to 12?
I'll probably start here, and it was kind of surprising because a few of you guys mentioned it as a competitive driver, and that was Ryan Blaney. I haven't had a good feeling about him this year, and like past years, he'll have such tremendous cars and such great runs, but he'll get caught up in a wreck. There'll be a pit stop that goes wrong. He'll be leading in a last lap or like a late pit stop, and he ends up staying out, and that screws him over. Like something happens, and he'll bust out of the gate with speed in a race, but just something will happen. 5 finishes of 30th or worse this year. That definitely adds up. He won Talladega back in June, but only has 1 top 5 since then. And I think back in June, that's when he really peaked this year. I think in between May and June, those months, he had 6 top 5s in a 7-race span. And since then, he's only had 1. So as I said, it's the playoffs. Things can definitely change. We see it almost every year. One guy who is on runs like that, maybe even like a Kyle Busch, he'll go out and win. And it just has a way of getting that little extra out of a driver. Maybe that's him this year, but that's just not what my gut is telling me. So I think Blaney is going to be a guy who's going to be eliminated fairly early this year.
I think I'll pick up on that, but I don't see it being Blaney falling out early. I actually think it might be Kyle Busch because he's on such a long winless streak. He's never gone into the playoffs without a victory. He's never gone more than about 25 to 30 races without victory. So he is on one of the streaks he's had. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is his first winless season. And as much as it would surprise people, we said the same thing about Jimmie Johnson. We said the same thing about Jeff Gordon, Kurt Busch years ago. And they all had a winless season that they struggled in. And for the most part, they all bounced back within a year or two. It's either that or he's going to surprise me and pull a Tony Stewart and win half the races.
Well, I want to address that real quick because that's exactly what I think is going to happen. If you look back in the years past where Kyle's had, other than when he won his championship, this last championship, he has had phenomenal success going into the playoffs, and then like the wheels came off the car, like almost literally. It's kind of reminiscent of Kurt Busch. Wheel coming off the car the year he won the championship in Homestead, and I have a great photo of that, by the way. But Kyle self-destructed year after year. I think Kyle Busch should have like 4 or 5 championships. I really do. And I expect him and Adam Stevens, man, they're a heck of a combination. And Adam didn't forget how to crew chief. Kyle didn't forget how to drive. But what the problem has been is they're used to coming into a track and making the car better so that Kyle can drive it. Now they're having to do that a little bit at a time during the race. Well, I think as we go back to some tracks and we do some things that they're a little more familiar with, and they're back in their comfort zone with a real schedule, rather than, race after race after race after race. We're on a real schedule now for the rest of the year. So I think Kyle, I think they pull it together, and I really do see him as a contender for the championship this year. Sarah?
I just don't. I hate to pick Chase Elliott here because probably get backlash for it, but
You're making all of NASCAR Twitter mad, Sarah.
Harvick's not going to answer any more of my questions. I mean, whatever.
I don't think Kyle will join the league, the Monday Night Racing League anymore.
No, and by the way, no hatred, no hate or shade going out to Kevin. He was my sister's favorite driver. So, and he still is my mother's favorite driver. So, it's not like I want him to do bad. I don't know. Maybe I had a dream that he's going to wreck out at Talladega. So, with you, it's Chase Elliott. And like Justin just said, Twitterverse is going to go crazy when they hear that, and you're going to get hate tweets. And I know all about hate tweets. I am an expert on hate tweets.
I know how to use the block button, so that's,
Use the quit button.
Did you take lessons from Jim Utter on that?
Yeah, I was going to say, have you and Jim Utter been talking?
Well, there's now a mute button, so you don't have to block them. You can just mute them.
Zach just doesn't use it. Zach doesn't use it.
I could just take Zach's advice. I mean, he said it to me before. He's just like, I don't use it, and maybe I won't after that. And I mean,
nice and quiet over here.
Nothing. Chase has obviously had a good season, and I don't know what it is that's kind of like telling me this. I could be totally wrong, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But the Hendrick cars have obviously. Jimmie hasn't won this year. The rest of them all have, at least one win. I don't know. There's just something like this year. I still just don't feel like they're where they could be. We've seen some races where Chevrolet is really strong, and then other races where, it's the Hamlin and Harvick show, which it doesn't really matter what race it is. It's pretty much been what that's been like all year. But I don't know. I just don't. Like I said, I don't know what it is telling me that. And when Justin mentioned the topics, I didn't even have to think about that one. It was just like a feeling I had. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I mean, I'm ready for the tweets. I mean, they can come at me, but maybe I'll stop. Maybe this will be my final season using Twitter after this. But
no, it won't, because somebody has to share all that crap on there that we put out. And I got to give you your props. You're very adept at getting our stuff on other platforms and getting out to the fans. So
Well, I mean, that's like me and Seth pretty much. I can't take all the credit for that. I mean, before Seth and I started sharing to groups, it was to Jordan all the time. So I mean, I was never always the one that was in charge of that.
I don't even know how to do it. Okay.
And then, Zach does it. Zach uses social, but I already know he's not going to post his stuff to social. So he's like, all right, I'm going to do this piece. So I know to check all the time. And I'll say to Seth, can you get that? Cause I can't get to it. Cause Zach wrote this. So, I mean, we're on the same page as far as, getting it out there.
Zach won't even share his photos into the Kickin the Tires Facebook page so that we can share them out when he's in a freaking race. Oh, and not to mention that it's gotten a lot harder to get photos from the race now because of some new rules. But
I'm sad for that.
We're ready for that. I've got some stuff planned.
So do I. It should be in the mail tomorrow.
Mine's already here.
All right.
Yeah, Rachel just got hers in the mail the other day.
See, we're all ready.
Yeah.
So.
It'd be a lot better than last week at Daytona.
For sure. Justin, well, who's your pick?
Of who's going to get knocked out early? Man,
Yeah.
it's tempting to say Kyle Busch because if you think about it, if you take out the playoffs and you go to the old format, and I'm going to make a lot of boomers happy, Kyle Busch would be sitting 9th in points right now. The playoffs have now bumped him all the way back to 14th. He is one of the 4 that is already below the cut line. So it is tempting to say him, but I'm not going to, just because of Jerry's sigh there, and I don't want to get fired.
Are you kidding me?
Oh, so you're going to leave me out to dry.
So here's the thing. let me point a couple things out. Okay, so Zach is the guy who's going and doing all the legwork right now. Sarah is running and Seth are running the social media, the side of it. You're the technical guy. You think I'm going to fire anybody right now? Are you kidding me? I'm like, y'all don't need me. Y'all proven that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I guess you'll need me for the West Coast races, and then you'll fire me.
Nah. No, I might fire you, but I'll keep Rachel.
There you go. That works. As long as she gets to go, have fun, be successful. No, I think the one that's going to be knocked out early is actually Truex. I don't know why, but I just have this hunch feeling this for some reason these next few races are not going to click, and Truex is going to be out of the wheelhouse and out of the playoffs pretty early. So for some reason that's what I'm leaning towards, even though he's had a pretty good season so far.
How do you think that makes Cole Pern feel?
Well, I could ask him, and he could actually probably give me a pretty honest answer now,
Yeah.
So that'd be pretty good.
There was one stat, though, that I saw on Truex that 3 of the last 4 years he's won the opening race of the playoffs.
True.
Which I found that pretty interesting. But yeah, he's just one of those guys who can start the playoffs off well, but can he keep it going? That's the biggest question.
Yeah, but
and he doesn't have Cole this year.
He's won it at Chicago, though. Think about that.
And Vegas, yeah, not Darlington.
Yeah,
but he won Darlington a few years ago.
Yeah. So
Yeah. So that'll be interesting to see. But no, these playoffs will be quite interesting because we got a good mix of drivers. So
I want to go into one thing real quick. Some of us were able to interview Steve Phelps earlier this week, and I'm working on that story. I probably should have gotten it done already, but life happens. One thing that stood out, and Bob Pockris asked this question, and that was, if a driver gets COVID, will they get a pass in the playoffs? And the answer is no. You won't get points. You'll have a sub driver. You won't be able to get in the car and get out. Protocols are protocols, and you have to do the 24-hour 2-test thing or 10-day thing. But you'll lose the time that you're out of the car. You'll lose those points. Couple other things. The Gen 7 test, they were very happy with. As you know, we had a story at Kickin with some photos that I took that a lot of people decided they were going to plagiarize and pirate. But they were very happy with the test down at Daytona that they saw the results from Action Express, the IMSA team, and even happier with the results of the test at Dover, where they ran over 500 laps and were able to basically see the loads on the car and figure out how it's going to react in a real race setting. So that's some new stuff regarding the Gen 7 and the new car that's going to still on schedule for a delayed schedule of 2022. It was supposed to be next year, but they pushed it back to 2022. Oh, one more thing. Possibility of other tracks on the race schedule in 2021, places we haven't been to. Yeah, so that's
for
kind
the
of
Cup Series.
The Cup Series, yeah.
Yeah, they said 2 to 3 additional ones in adding to Nashville Superspeedway.
Yeah, in addition to Nashville Superspeedway, maybe 2 or 3 others that we've never been to. And I've been to Nashville, not in the Cup Series. I was doing PR for a truck team at the time. And I actually was supposed to go to Nashville on Wednesday of next week for something. It just got canceled. So I was going to go out there and fly the drone over it. But we'll get a chance to do that and show people what Nashville looks like before we actually get out there.
Nice. Cool.
I just hope we're allowed to go to the track at that point, because I know I would love
Yeah.
to see that track. It would be big for the area, and it'd be such a bummer if we can't go, you know?
I know Matt's really excited about that.
Yeah, I'm
That
probably going to
race,
stay at
so.
his place. Yeah.
Well, I have hotel rooms. I have some stuff reserved pretty close by at a decent rate, because as soon as we heard that we were going to race there, I went ahead and made the reservations. Now, one of the big advantages, we don't have a schedule yet for next year. So one of the big advantages I always like is when they started doing the schedule early in May or April and May, I hated it because it kills us for hotels. But the fact that the schedule is going to come out later this year, we'll have 8 months of hotels that we can make reservations for and get them out very quickly. If you do it within the first hour, the hotels don't have time to change their rates. So I'll be making a lot of hotel reservations before the hotels decide to jack up their rates, and we can get some good deals, and hopefully everybody can get to go to the races next year.
One more topic, guys. Greg Biffle's in the truck race.
As is Trevor Bayne.
Wow.
I like Trevor Bayne.
And David
Yeah.
Reagan. So it's like
Yeah.
a Roush Fenway reunion. 3 guys.
Yeah, just waiting for Carl Edwards to get the call up.
Right? Oh, my God.
Not happening. Guys, I appreciate it. Great show. This is our first show. Just for those that are just, tuning in or catch the end of it or didn't see the beginning, we're going to do this again. Apparently, you guys better free up your schedule, because Justin says we have to do this every week now. So at least for the next 10 weeks. I don't know what else to talk about. You guys, I appreciate everything you do for the sport. I appreciate everything you do even more for Kickin the Tires, because, look, I was barely hanging on. Summer and I were doing this by ourselves. I was doing it by myself, then I brought Summer on, and then somehow, miraculously, Zach decided that he wanted to, bang his head against the wall and come help us. And and I'm so glad he did. And now to have the staff that we have, you guys are great, and I appreciate it. And I promise you, we will keep doing these things like this and keep growing if you guys stick around.